We're live.
What is crack-a-lackin' Ridge Runner Nation? We are back for our 21st Ridge Runners live show, and we're super excited tonight. Super excited to have tonight's guest on the show. This past weekend, he ran 170 miles at Bob's Big Timber Backyard Ultra and won the thing. I mean, it's absolutely crazy to see. Without further ado, Jacob Conrad, how are you doing tonight?
I'm feeling fantastic. Happy to be here.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you're feeling good after that big effort you put in. What are you drinking tonight?
I am drinking a Platform Haze Jude beer from Cleveland.
Great choice, John. It's good to see you again. What are you drinking?
I actually have two because I'm almost done with one of them, but I have a can of summer shandy. But after that, I'll be following up with the Great Lakes Burning River Pale Ale, which, I shouldn't maybe be drinking these until after the race, but who cares?
Appropriate. And I've got a special one today. I got a Spotted Cow. It's New Glorious. I'm gonna say that totally wrong. Brewing company. It's a Wisconsin beer. I'm up in Wisconsin / Minneapolis tonight, so had to get the local beer out here. But I'm just super excited to dive into tonight's episode because Jacob, it was awesome to follow the race along in this past weekend and really just see it all unfold before our eyes on Facebook. All the updates that we were getting from everyone there. Talk about the race. So I guess before we dive too deep into the actual race itself, what was your training like going into the race, and why was it such a big deal to kind of choose this race?
Well, the race was kind of a last minute decision. All year I'd been gearing up for Mohican, put in really good training block. I was feeling fantastic, doing all the training, hoping that the race wouldn't get canceled. And then it ended up getting postponed until October. So at that point, I'm thinking I'm feeling really fit, feeling really good. I'd like to get the chance to race, but kind of not really a life hiccup, but as far as running, it was a hiccup. So my wife and I were expecting twins, and the due date was July 22nd. So then we had a scheduled C-section. It was scheduled for July 8th, ended up happening the 1st. So I was looking at other races to hop into, and obviously that's not gonna let anything happen, shortly after Mohican. So Bob's was one of the races I was considering, and Bob's a friend of mine. So I got in touch with him. I said, hey, what's going on with the race? Are you going to get to have it? He said, yeah, I think we'll probably have it. Wait to sign up. I'll let you know if it looks good. So ramped training back up in July, feeling pretty good, checking with Bob. He said, yeah, I think it's going to be on. So I hopped in and did a couple week taper, and it's like, okay, I'm feeling pretty good, but we'll see what happens. Never did one of those before. I was a little hesitant to try it. And that just went into it thinking, let's see what I can do. Let's see what happens. And it went better than expected.
Sounds like about
I would
well.
say yeah, I would say it went probably as best as it could possibly be. Only one winner at that event. You were second last year at the Mohican 100 in that absolutely stacked field. So it's kind of must have been kind of sad to not be able to go back right away when you were all trained to go. But I'm glad that you were able to find a race and go to Bob's this past weekend. What was it like? Did you know going in? What was your goals with the race? Did you know that you were going to win outright? Or obviously there's some big names at that race. So what was the preparation like going into race day?
Well, I had checked out the names, and I knew there were a couple guys there. Gabe Rainwater probably being the one I was most familiar with, because he's a friend of mine, run with him a bunch, and he's been great at those races. So I tried really hard to get myself mentally ready for the race. I said, I don't care how far I go. I just don't want to quit. If something happens that's not safe or I'm going to hurt myself, I'll go ahead and stop. But if I go out, I just want to time out. So that was the goal. I thought, if I say I want to run 100 miles and I go out there and try to run number 104, that's probably going to be the toughest lap ever. So I didn't care. I did care about the distance, the more the better, but I didn't have a specific goal in mind. And so that was a mindset going in. And I thought with how fit I was that, anything less than 100 would be a pretty big disappointment. So kind of went into the race early thinking, if I can get to 100 with as little effort as possible and just see how I feel, I mean, that's all new territory from there. And we'll just see what happens. And so that was the strategy starting off the race. And, the first part of it went pretty smooth and, kind of just everything was going good.
Yeah, no, Ridge Runner Nation, if you have any questions in the chat, make sure to drop those in there for Jacob. We'll try to get to as many of those as we can. That's an interesting mindset to have in a backyard ultra. I think it's the right mindset to have when you're going into it. Is like, I just want to run as far as possible and not put a distance goal on. But I think the hardest thing I know personally for me is when you don't have an exact distance to go to, sometimes you check out early. So how did you kind of stay with it all day? And you can kind of walk through the early parts of your race and how your strategy involving like the amount of time you took each lap and all of that. But I guess like, how do you stay so strong throughout all of that?
I mean, I kind of looked at it as, get to 100 miles and whoever goes out for about 25, stuff can happen. People can get injured or something screwy can happen and people drop out. But I looked at it as, the first 100, I mean, there's with that field, there are going to be a number of people there at 100. So first 100 were just kind of a shakeout, like see, who's really there to try to put up some big miles. And, looking at the field, you could tell there were probably 10 to 15 people there that, 100 wasn't the goal. They were wanting to go more. And that was good because, I was just wanting to get a lot of miles in. It's like the more people there are, the better. So it's like encourage everybody, the more the merrier.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's kind of funny. You said like the first 100 seems so easy, but take us back to the first couple of loops. Take us back maybe the first 6 loops, and like, what was the strategy involving that, and like, how did it go so well for you?
Well, I'd been interested in race tactics and what other people do in this, so I thought about it for a long time. And I thought, I don't really feel comfortable trying to run backyard ultra pace. You can run 13 miles all day and you're good, but typically my legs don't feel good if I run that pace. So I thought, I'm going to run basically all of the first 2 miles at an easy pace, but I'm going to run the hills. It's like I feel like if I start walking all the hills, I lose my hill legs. So I purposely wanted to put it in a little bit of an effort in a couple places. So I'd run out to 2 miles, maybe 2.05. It was 2 on my GPS watch. I was only getting like 3.95 per loop, about a little over halfway in the loop. And then I could just walk in the rest of the way, nice and easy. And we did 14-day loops, so we were at 58 miles. And I did that for every single loop, which was quite strange in the beginning because I'd go off the front of the field most loops, and then everybody in the field would pass me. I asked after the race, I think my first lap, I was the slowest person in the entire field. I came in just under 53 minutes and everybody was passing me, like looking at me like, what's this guy doing? He's just walking. And I just remember walking up to the field the first time to the finish line. Everybody's kind of hurrying around and I'm looking at the clock. It says 52 minutes something. Like that's plenty of time. It's 4 miles into the race. You can get a drink, eat a little, and be ready to go, no problem.
Was that
so then I just kept that strategy up. Basically, first 14 loops, no hiccups, no falls, kind of no issues, just nice and smooth.
Did you keep coming in with like 5, 6, 7 minutes left, or what was your kind of goal for each loop?
Going into the race, I thought 53 to 54 minutes would be the sweet spot. But I looked back at the splits. My first lap was actually my slowest. I think most loops I was coming in about 51 or 52. And that was kind of nice because I could sit down, take my time, eat a bunch, drink a bunch, get my bottle filled. Just no worries, relax, get back out there, plenty of time to go. So just
Yeah.
kept rolling with that plan.
Marvin Yoder said, "Congrats on the incredible win, and it was fun running with you for a few." I bet. I mean, did you even get to run with people if you were so far out in the beginning? And then, like,
No,
what was
that
that like? Was there?
that was a little bit of a disappointment of the race. I got to see everybody in the field, but I didn't really get to actually run side by side by many people. Just a couple times in the race, had people, close by, or more at the end of my loops if other people would slow down and walk with me a little bit. So even though it was like every lap I would see the entire field, but it was just in passing as, they were catching up to me and passing me. So that was a little bit strange. The first couple laps, I kind of had to, you hear somebody catch you, and the instinct in a normal race is to pick it up a little bit. I had to remind myself, no, this is the pace that I want to be going. This is perfect. Just settle down. But then it got to be neat. Like, for certain people, we'd pass each other the same point at the loop, and we, say hi, good job. And actually, Jordan, the guy that got second, we had it down for like 10 loops in a row within 50 yards. Him and another guy would catch me. Would say, "Hey, good job. Okay, see you up there, and then see you your next loop." So that was kind of cool.
Yeah. So what was it like on the night loop? So you got through day pretty much no ease, but starting that first night, that's kind of where the race gets real. What was it like out there? For those of you that don't know, I'm sure it was still a dark road, and especially when you're by yourself, can be pretty lonesome. I know that I had the luxury of running with Gabe Rainwater last year when I did the race, but what was the night loop like for you?
So first time through the night loop, it was a pretty easy course. You went out onto a township road, gravel road, had about 100-foot climb. Initially, after that, everything was flat. So within a half mile, you'd done the big climb of the loop, and everything else was either flat or downhill. So I decided that I'd probably run a little bit more this loop. So I think I'd run up to about 3 miles, take a walk break, walk a little bit, and then come in and then run or walk and try to come in about 46 or 48 minutes. And that was giving me enough time to get food. And then I'd lay down and try to take about a 5-minute nap, which I got to lay down every loop. I'm not sure how much I actually slept. My generator and the lights for the race. So I had earplugs along. So, I mean, I probably got about an hour of lay down time, but didn't get an hour of sleep. I know I drifted off a few times, but I'm not sure exactly how much. I seem to be more alert when I woke up to start the loop.
I figured it'd be real difficult to try to sleep with all that, like, like adrenaline, something like that in the middle of the race. Like, it's hard to be like shut off and try to even sleep for a couple seconds at all.
Yeah, I was worried about that. I found that I wasn't as amped up as I thought I might be. I think that was because I was purposely taking the end of the loop super easy. But the first couple times it was a little bit hard to, lay down there and just lay there and relax. But
So what was it? Oh, go for it.
Oh, yeah. So the first night we did 14 trail loops and then 10 road loops. So that was the 24 hours. And that was just because we had plenty of daylight. So I was able to maintain a pretty steady pace and the same strategy through the first night, come in with plenty of time to spare. Still feeling pretty good. I mean, legs had some fatigue, but nothing crazy, nothing really going terribly wrong.
So I guess, I mean, you're coming in at 46 minutes on a night loop. I think that's kind of fast for most people. Where were you in relation to everyone else in the field in the first night there?
For the majority of the loops, I was the second fastest guy. George was coming in. I think he was a couple minutes faster than me.
Gotcha.
And,
Yeah. I mean,
like, other than that, I'd be laid down and out, and I'm not really sure when the other people were coming in. I'd have to look back at the splits, but I was just wanting to get in there quick and try to bank some sleep while I had an opportunity.
Mhm.
Yeah, no, it's interesting because I think it's it's awesome that you won the race and you're tonight's guest, because you're just such a different runner than most people that have won backyard ultras and that have been really good at them. For example, I think that like it takes sometimes if you're too fast, I feel like the backyard format isn't for you because you're so used to just sprinting through races and not having to slow down and have that tons of aid station time. But it seems like you kind of mastered that because you're quick enough to run fast enough, but also you were able to tune out and kind of use that time effectively. I guess how was the balance of that? Like, do you think you changed anything going forward, or was that just how you were rolling with it through the second day?
I think if looking back on it, I might have started the day loop and actually done a little bit slower because I need sleep. I might have walked more and walked a couple more of the hills just to save energy. That first night, I liked the strategy. I may have even tried to run a little faster and sleep more. I mean, we'll get to it at the end of the race, but kind of sleep deprivation became the biggest issue for me rather than legs going or anything like that. But I think if I actually could have slept a little bit more, I might have been feeling better. But I mean, it's hard to tell. Kind of, I mean, towards the end, everything was at the verge of going.
Yeah. So before we get to the end of the race, how was the next morning? Sun rises again. You're 100 miles in, and there's still tons of people left. What was the next 6 to 12 hours like?
Well, I mean, first of all, it was great to see. We lined up for Loop 25, and I think there were 9 of us that went out there. So that was pretty cool to see. Okay, there's going to be a big group of us going for it. And I decided, I'm pretty much on the same strategy I did on day one. We'll see how the legs feel. So I took off on loop 25, first day loop, and I was kind of worried that it was going to have to be an all-out effort to, come in at that 52 to 53 minute. And I took off running, and it actually felt really nice to run the trails. It was a nice break from the road. So ran out to my 2-mile walking point, and I'd been getting there in about 19 or 20 minutes on day one. I think I was about 21 minutes on loop 25. So I thought I'll run 2/4 miles and walk it in from there. So that's what I did, and kind of came in off that first loop. And my dad was there crewing for me, which I'm very thankful for. And I told him I don't think those night loops did much. I'm still feeling pretty good. Like I feel almost as good as day one. So I had carried headlamps with them, or I had carried headlamps with me in case it was a little dark still. Handed it to him and told him, okay, if you can put batteries on these, I'll need them. Hoping I didn't seem arrogant. And then, kind of just kept that strategy going. And up through 5 or 6 laps, I was pretty consistent. There was a gradual slowdown throughout the day. So I was able to run about the same lap times, but I did that by just running a little bit farther. Maybe loop 30, I ran out to like 2.5 miles and then walked in the rest of the way. So it was kind of,
Yeah.
I mean, I was slowing down, and I mean, the legs were feeling it. There was definitely some fatigue there, but there was nothing crazy yet.
So as obviously the race starts to eventually thin out, so there's like 5 or so people left. There was a question in the chat from Running Sig, said, "Congrats on the win. Was there a specific point at the race where you started to believe that you were the strongest runner in the field?" Did that thought cross your mind with even like say 5 people to go?
No, it never really crossed my mind until basically right at the end of the race when, stuff started to seriously go wrong for Jordan. But I mean, I could kind of tell in my head, I was thinking it was going to come down to me and Jordan, just the way things were playing out and everybody was looking. I mean, you can kind of tell when somebody's on the verge and, going back out there and struggling. And, nobody was really saying much, but you can kind of just tell when somebody's hurting bad.
So when Gabe dropped, what was the dynamic? How did that change? Because there's 3 of you guys obviously out there. So when Gabe dropped, how did that change the dynamic? Like, did you know that, oh man, we could go another 100 miles with you and Jordan, or was it okay? Let's just try to focus one loop at a time. And what was that like to kind of see him kind of just drop at the race? I guess.
Yeah, it was a big disappointment because, I mean, in there at that point in my head, I was still, let's do the miles a game. Let's all 3 of us just go for it, keep putting up miles. And then came back in and hear a voice from Gabe's tent. It's like, hey, like I'm out. It's like, oh, like, and my strategy, I'd still been running off the front, so I wasn't aware of what was going on. Hadn't really seen Gabe running to even know if he was feeling good, bad, terrible. So yeah, that was actually a disappointment. And then it's just like, okay, we've just got to keep going, keep running more loops.
So that obviously that happened, and then was there a conversation with you and Jordan that next loop? Okay, it's only 2 of us. Or what were the mind games like when there's 2 of you guys left?
I don't think there were a tremendous amount of mind games. You just gave a kind of a fist bump on that next loop, like let's go get it. Let's keep going. And so I think we were pretty far into the second day of the day loops, the trail loops, and we had gotten some rain, and the trail was starting to deteriorate. So I think it was a struggle for both of us. I knew I was still coming in about the same time, but I was starting to have to run a lot more of the loop. There were some muddy sections that it was just getting slow and slow, and slower. So that level was definitely increasing, and I started to feel a little bit mentally foggy here on the sections of the trail. I really, really had to focus on it's okay, stay in the trail, like don't fall. So the effort level and the amount of concentration it was taking were definitely going up. And legs were, my legs were feeling it, but they weren't the worst part. It was, concentrating on stuff. And then also at this point, the moisture had got under my feet, and they were starting to hurt pretty bad. Just sliding around, you can tell blisters are forming. So that's where things started to get tough. Jordan and I talked, and I don't even think he had a pair of trail shoes that really fit him well. So he said he was running in a pair of worn out road flats, just kind of sliding around. And here we are, miles. Man, if this is tough for me, it's like not easy on him. It's like, well, I think we're both behind stuff. We're just gonna keep going. And so then I think we went out for. It ended up being our last. Okay, let's only do 12 this time. The trail's getting sloppy. We'll switch to the road one loop earlier. And in my head, I was almost ready for it to be over. Like it was starting to get hard. And, kind of the competitive nature. Was starting to kick in. It's like, if I, I'd like to win this if we've gone this far. No, Jordan, it would be nice to win.
Yeah.
So kind of thought, I know he was struggling on these trail loops. I thought that was my chance. And Jordan was looking super, super strong on the road. I thought if we go to the road, this thing is going to go on. and on and on. So it was actually a little bit of a disappointment to hear. So we got through, let's see, it would have been Loop 36, 150 miles, kind of no major problems, but I knew I had to take care of my feet after that. So came in, a cousin Kyle, who also ran the race, was there. He kind of saved my race. He had some baby powder, put on 2 layers of socks, and found a dry pair of shoes. It's like a worn out pair of kind of flat trainers that have like 400 miles on them, but they were dry. And so we went out and started running the road loop, and it, yeah, it started to get pretty tough.
So Rob Ballou had a question in the chat. It said Jordan fell 3 times. Did you ever fall on that day loop there when you were trying to things were getting dizzy out there?
No, I actually never fell. I had a really good day in that respect. I think I stubbed my toe once and didn't even have anything other than that, trips or stumbles, which is surprising because, the end of day 2, I was getting a little loopy.
So you're back on the road, you're 150 in, going on night 2, and that is just new territory. Obviously for you, it's your first back at Ultra, and Jordan, yeah, I think he's done one before, practice one, but the farthest he's ever gone in a format like this. What were the final 20 miles like? Walk us through that.
Okay, so yeah, first road loop, Jordan and I actually ran together, kind of first time all day. I mean, we'd been chatting. He was catching me, like with my day strategy, he was catching, hey, good job, passing that same point every time. So we ran most of the first loop together. I ended up having to stop, tie my shoe, and he went ahead, and I took a walk break. So we chatted, and it's like, this is pretty cool. Got to know each other a little bit better. It's like, okay, and I think he did like a 46, and I did like a 48. And kind of all I could manage at this point was a slow shuffle, but it was still a 48-minute lap. I'm like, okay, that's 12 minutes extra. Like, this could go a while. So then we went out on our second lap, and it took a long time to get going. The legs were getting really tight. I was trying to lay down and sleep, which was less effective. I was way more tired, but I was having a lot more trouble actually catching any sleep. And every time I got up, I was just super, super stiff. To the start of each loop, you go, straight out from the camp up this little hill, and everybody there can see you, see what you're doing. And at this point, I started to feel a little bit crampy in my legs, which is like, oh no, it's like, don't cramp up and have to hobble up this hill in front of everybody. So, we just kind of go out. Jordan was going out a little bit ahead of me then. He was definitely looking stronger running. So it was about 3/8 of a mile out to the road, get out there, walk up the road, and started walking up the road, and my legs felt even crampier walking. I'm like, oh no, this could be a problem. Like, the only thing I can do is just kind of a slow jog. So got up to that hill, got up the hill as quick as I could, and just started jogging. And about a mile in, I wasn't able to run fast, but I could run about a 12-minute pace. And it was all flat trails. And so did that, came in like 48, 49 minutes again. It's like, okay, as long as nothing goes majorly wrong here, I can keep this up for a while. It's not feeling comfortable, but let's just keep rolling with it. Then let's see, I think our third night loop, it was kind of more of the same. Start out, feel stiff. It was a struggle. Get those legs going, hike up the hill, get the legs going again. About a mile in, they start to feel better and, kind of just shuffle along at about 12-minute pace. Did that and came in. And I think I laid down then, and I was just feeling pretty rough. I felt like my heart was really racing and, just restless. My stomach was a little iffy. So we went back out there on that next loop and, stood up off. I had a little sleeping pad I was sleeping on, stood up and felt a little lightheaded. And Dad looked at me. He's like, you've got nothing to prove. You don't have to keep this up. And, I want to go on. So went out there and started running, and that first little 3/8 mile stretch out to the road, I started to get a chill. Just felt like I couldn't get warmed up, and I'm like, this could be it. The body could just be shutting down, which is fine. If I shut down, that I've given it my all. And he said, well, I'm going to take a gel. Maybe I'm low on calories. I took a gel, walked up that hill, and got going, and I just could not get my legs going. So I'm running and, hit the first mile marker, look down at my watch. I'm at 14-minute pace, which is right on the verge of timing out. And I'm just feeling miserable. Can't get my legs to open up. I think at this point I looked up ahead, and Jordan's about 200 yards ahead of me. And he keeps looking back. And I thought, okay, he's just watching me struggle. Like he's going to stay, make sure he makes it in time, and, just keep an eye on me. But I think in truth, Jordan was also facing his own issues. I talked to him a little bit after the race, so I'm not 100% sure what happened, but I actually ended up catching him there about another half mile, and he wasn't moving well either. And I finally got my legs going. I think 2 miles in, I was averaging about 13-minute miles. And there was a series of switchbacks he did in the night loop. So I checked, and I think Jordan was over 2 minutes behind me then at 2 miles. So I know, something's got to be wrong. He's significantly slowed. So ran the rest of that loop, and the legs actually felt a little better towards the end. And came in, I think around 50 minutes, kind of said to my crew that, something's going on. Like, I don't think Jordan's feeling real good. And then, and Jordan had been coming in at like 45 minutes consistently. And this one, he came in maybe 5 minutes after me, and he didn't look good. So kind of knew this could be the end. So then finally went out on our last loop, well, what ended up being our last loop. And I couldn't even keep track of them at this point. I thought, okay, the end of the loop. So if I can just run that nice, easy, slow pace and not mess anything up, I think I can get in for another few loops, and, we'll just see what happens. Can't control what anybody else is doing. So went out, and I could tell Jordan was hurting. He basically went out side by side at this point, not really saying much. It was all I could do to just keep focused and stay on the course. Hit the township road, went hiking up it, and Jordan's right behind me. Okay, I have my certain point. I'm going to start running, a little fence post at the top of the hill. So I started that real slow shuffle, and I never heard Jordan start running. So then I thought, it kind of spurred me on when Jordan started looking back the last loop. And it was about a half mile straight where you could see what, kind of see what each other was doing. I never looked back. So then I was actually feeling a little bit better than the loop previous. I hit the 1 mile mark at about 12 minutes. And I thought, okay, if I hold this pace, I have plenty of time in this loop. And then Bob's driveway, I believe, was at 1.4 miles. And there's only about 3 or 4 houses on this mile stretch of road. And I'm running down the road, and it's a struggle to keep focused. And all of a sudden, nothing looks familiar. I can't see any flags. The trees don't look familiar. The road doesn't look familiar. And I'm thinking, oh no, like I just ran right by Bob's driveway. I don't know how far down the road I am. Like this could have gone all wrong. So I kind of stopped, and I looked around, and I said, well, I'm just going to turn around and, run back to Bob's driveway. So I turned around, and it seemed like a long ways, but it was probably only about 100 yards. And I saw a flag for the race. So I knew, okay, I haven't gone too far. But then I also didn't see what's coming. And you could see quite a ways down the road at that point. Like if you couldn't see the headlamp, like something, either he had turned around or he was really, really struggling. So got turned around, got back out on Bob's course. And at this point, I'm thinking, okay, just stay focused, don't mess this loop up. Like I've already almost messed up the easiest part of the course where you're just running down a township road and there's literally like two possible turns to make. I almost messed that up. So then just, it was all I could do to stay focused. But got through the course, just that slow shuffle, 12:30 pace, got back out on the township road. It's like, okay, I've got a mile to go and I've got like 20 minutes to do it. I should be able to do this. Just kept that slow shuffle up. And I still wasn't 100% sure what had happened to Jordan. And I didn't want to let myself think at this point that, okay, this is it. Because if I was wrong, that was going to be such a letdown. I don't know how I could have possibly gone back out. So came in the drive back to Bob's Field. As soon as my headlamp got to where the people at the finish line could see it, I heard a bunch of clapping. So I'm thinking, okay, I think this is it. And I just did that slow jog in there, across the finish line, and there's clapping, and nobody said anything. Maybe it was just so loud, but I couldn't tell. I kind of turn around to go back to my tent, and Brian Poland goes, "You don't have to go back out." And I was just so relieved at that point. I know I said I wanted to go as far as I could, but I was pretty ready to be done at that point. So that was the end of the race.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's an awesome story, man. It was crazy to see it all unfold, and obviously you living in it must have been just absolutely epic. And the battle that you kind of faced out there those last couple loops was just awesome to hear. Tim Crow in the chat asked, okay, so now that you've done 170 miles, how can we get you to 200 miles?
Well, I'm going to try. Give it my best shot. I don't know. Anything can go wrong. I could have finished out the night loop, or I could have cramped up in the next loop and timed out. I was to the point where, like, one loop I got like bad navigation, having to take a long bathroom break, even just a cramp and having to walk for 5 minutes would have ended my race at the pace I was moving.
Yeah, and for people that don't know, like the Backyard Ultra format and these affiliate races, obviously you're going off to Big Dog Backyard Ultra in a couple months here, but for the affiliate races, 170 miles is one of the best performances from all of the races that basically isn't Laz's. There's a Facebook group you can check out the results every single week, and some races I'm going to call out Florida for example. 104 miles gets the win there. And like in Ohio, there's been massive performances, and you just raised the bar one more time. So what is your preparation next going into Bigs?
I hope it'll be similar. I think just getting training time is going to be a lot more difficult. One of the things that I didn't do for Bob's that I wish I had done more of was hike. Got to hike at a fast pace. I did maybe 4 or 5 training runs where I'd run and then walk the last mile, and I could walk about a 13-minute mile. It was semi uncomfortable. If I could make that pace more comfortable, that would be really big. And like at the end of day 1 at Bob's, it was actually harder to walk. Like my legs were feeling more tired during the walking sections than they were during the running. But like when I go out for a run, I'm usually pressed for time. But like, well, if I go faster, I can cover more miles. So if I can figure out some way to do some fast walking, I think that would actually help with my strategy.
So Jordan is in the chat room and has said, "Why did you have to beat me in front of my mom, Jacob?"
Well, my dad was there. I couldn't let him down. Sorry, Jordan.
Oh, I love it. And then
it was a pleasure, Jordan. It was great to run against you.
The another good comment we have is from Mike Kabowski. It says, towards the end of the race, there seemed to be a lot of friendly trash talk between Jordan, Gabe, and Jacob. Jordan and Gabe, but Jacob stayed quiet. Was this his game face on? Curious what was going through his mind.
No, I'm just not much of a trash talker. I do well, but I didn't want to go and advertise it. And then if I say I'm going to do 200 miles and get lost on lap 2 and get up on lap 2, I really feel foolish. But Gabe and Jordan backed it up, so go ahead and talk.
Yeah, no, for those of you that don't know, I think Jordan is all in on the backyard ultra scene. I found a little bit about him, and he's been great runner in college and then kind of transitioning to ultras now. And he's been diving straight into that scene. And this was awesome to see him go that far. And he said, "Great race, brother. It was a pleasure running with you, and you earned it, no doubt." Yeah, it was crazy to see it all go down. Deisha in the chat said, "I created for Jordan, and I absolutely loved your dad. He was great company. Please let him know that he did a great job holding it down." So you have to pass that along as well.
All right, I will. I think he might be watching. I think he knew about it.
Awesome. So yeah, we talked a little bit about Bigs, but I think you're also still signed up for Mohican. Is that right? What's kind of your game plan with those two races? I think they're like a week and a half apart or whatnot. So what's your game plan?
Well, I definitely want to go to Biggs. It would be a big thrill to get to run against all the competitors there. And I don't think you get the chance. I don't think there's any way you don't go and give it your best shot. And then, Mohican's kind of been my go-to race. I'd love to get a bunch of finishes there. So unless something goes terribly wrong, I'd like to do them both. Now, I don't know that I'm going to go and try to run Mohican, absolutely 100% as fast as I possibly could. I think if I could do it and finish the thing, I'd be thrilled.
Yeah, with your experience there at Mohican and all of your top finishes there, I feel like you'd have no problem doing both races with ease.
Well, I don't know about easy, but
So for those of you that don't know, Jacob has put in some awesome performances in this past year. This isn't like a new thing for Jacob. And I think he honestly, after doing my research, I think he deserves more credit in the Midwest ultra scene, East Coast ultra scene. I'm curious to kind of get his thoughts on this, but just top fit places, top 3 first place wins at all these races. And obviously this one is a super big win. Ohio's Ultra Runner of the Year. That's an award that we've done for 2 years now. And I think this race specifically catapults you up into that conversation. I guess, what is your mindset going? Like, I know you're going for the races, but like, do you ever consider like, man, I should get more credit in the ultra runners running scene in Ohio? Because I think you're a name that shows up consistently every single race you go to, has good performances, always does really well, but for whatever reason, doesn't get the love or the glamour that other people do.
no, I don't care about that. I enjoy racing, enjoy competing. Just got my own thing. Whatever everybody else thinks is fine.
Very humble.
Yeah, that's one. Yeah, that's the one thing that I've heard about you, and obviously knowing you a little bit was you're one of the most humble people. So I knew I'd ask the question, but I knew I wouldn't get much of a response in regards to, I'm going to crush everyone in Ohio's Ultra Runner of the Year this year. But definitely a name for Ohio people to keep their eye on the rest of the year.
Well,
Nathan,
with the way this year has gone and few races, it might be easier to win if there's no more races.
That is true. I think we haven't really discussed it yet, but I think that'd be some kind of like award for like people that have done like big adventures. So like, for example, like this Arlen's 100-miler that he did in 13 hours. Does that count? Might count for something, but it wasn't an official race. So we'll see when that kind of comes around. But Nathan Quinn said Jacob is way too humble, but that's what makes him great. He knows that he's one of the best, but he doesn't need the credit. And I think that he's going to start getting the credit around Ohio and the Midwest going forward. So that's going to be awesome to see.
So if we jump back a little bit, Kurt Keener asked at the very beginning, he wants to know, were you born and raised in Ohio, but then also what got you into trail running?
So, yeah, actually, I was born and raised in Ohio, and it was probably 5 or 6 miles from Bob's place. So Bob was a neighbor growing up. My parents have a dairy farm there. So Bob has been a neighbor for a long time. I've known him since before either one of us was a runner, actually. And then I guess what got me into trail running, I started off running on the roads, did a couple marathons, and I'd been hiking over at the Mohican State Park, and I was aware, that there was a 100-mile race there. And when I was younger, I thought that's crazy. Who would do that? I'll never do that. And then started running the marathon, running the park. So one year I just decided I'm going to run the 50 there, and that'll be my first trail race. So I did that, and I really enjoyed it, really enjoyed the atmosphere, and it's just kind of continued from there.
Awesome.
Yeah, your first race, just hopping in the Mohican 50 just on a whim. It seems like.
I think Wesley just froze.
Yeah. Did we lose him?
He's frozen solid. He can't even finish that sentence. He was so excited.
All right, am I back here?
Yeah, but you're vertical.
Oh, let me fix myself here. My apologies. Okay, so what I was saying was like you just hopped in the race and you got 10th overall. Like that is just incredible for a debut 50. From that moment on, do you just know like, oh, I'm just gonna absolutely crush the trail running scene, or like I just want to keep going further and get going faster?
Well, I knew I enjoyed it. I didn't run a stupendously fast time or anything. So already, even before I won the 50, kind of jokingly, but not jokingly, to my wife, I said, well, I think I'm just going to transfer to the 100 and try that. Which in hindsight, she was right. It would have been dumb to try 100 for my first one. But then finish the 50, and the end was hard. And then 2 days later, you forget about all that. I think I'm going to do the 100 next year. So I had a year to train for it and get ready, and I signed up for it and did it. And it's kind of taken off from there. And then thought, well, if I did this and this and this different, maybe I could do it faster. And it's kind of just taken off from there.
How is your mindset with races? Because it seems like you've like excelled at all of these and like done really well. But we lost John for a second. He'll be back in a second. But how does the mindset transition from like when you were starting ultras to going into the backyard ultra format? Did you kind of have that same mentality, like, oh, this is a new adventure, or did you just know like, okay, I can at least do X amount of miles?
Kind of both. I thought it would be a new adventure. It would be definitely a way I could push my limits. It would be something different. And seeming arrogant, but I knew that I had run a couple 100-mile races and finished them, well under backyard pace. So I was thinking, if things go well, I should be able to get over 100 miles. And it should be by a decent amount, but I had followed the backyard ultra. I thought, okay, typically if one of these makes it to 30 hours, like that's, pretty good for an affiliate race. Like you were talking, Wesley, like they typically don't. 30 hours, 35 would be pretty good. But that, even then looking at like last year at Big, it's like all the big names, there's going to be 200 miles and stuff just goes wrong and it doesn't happen. So I didn't know what to expect. I thought, if things go right for me, I could do like a big number, but I didn't expect it to be 170.
So I feel like at Big's obviously going to be a little different atmosphere, just because the amount of unbelievable runners that are going to be at that event. how confident are you in staying composed with your pacing strategy when you see the biggest names in the sports either running past you or even going slower than you? Do you think you can kind of like stay strong in your mentality, or you're going to be double guessing yourself when you see people pass you or whatnot in those moments?
I don't think. Well, according to like, that's what you shouldn't do, and that won't mess with me at all. But at Bob's my race strategy, basically every loop I was going off the fronts, I was trying to front load the running. So, I would have a hank of time to fix it and not time out in the loop. So I think if I would try that similar strategy at Biggs, and I'd be curious to talk, a couple local guys, Brian Poland and Gabe Raymotter, who we already talked about, who have run it, but I'd kind of like to stick to the same strategy, but kind of don't know what the people down there are doing. It would certainly seem strange if I was the only one doing that, going off the front of the field again, but then getting passed by everybody. So I don't know. I'd like to do the same strategy. We'll just see how it feels. I was definitely overhearing some comments at Bob's like, what's this guy doing? Or that's the guy that walks. Like, which wasn't a big deal there. I could kind of shrug it off, but Pigs is kind of a different story. So I don't know. Got a couple months to plan.
Yeah, no disrespect to Bob, but when Laz is chirping in your ear, I bet that's a slightly different feeling.
Yeah, I'm kind of excited to see what it'll be like.
So your mindset's got to be the same exact thing, right? Just I'm going to go as far as I possibly can, and I think it's just to go in minimum 250 and just set that as your goal and go from there. But what are you going to do?
I think I'm going to roll with the same strategy. Just say, going until I can. I mean, with the people going there to Pigs, I think the opportunity to go as far as I can will be almost a sure thing. I mean, there's people there that are going to just go and go and go and go. So I don't know. I think I got close enough at Bob's of almost getting what I wished for. When it got to be a struggle at the end, it's like, I see what this format is hard to keep going out there.
Well, that's why you ended up winning this past weekend, because you're stuck with your strategy and you executed it to perfection. Original Nation, if you've got any questions, make sure to drop those in the chat. We've got a couple more minutes here. I'm curious on, what was your nutrition like throughout the day? That's always one of the biggest things for back at Ultra. What are you eating throughout the day?
So I was taking a water bottle out every loop. It was about 50-50. Just plain water and then tailwind. And then after nearly every loop, I'd eat half a banana. That's kind of my go-to. And then I had a variety of stuff, just regular chips, a couple different varieties of cookies, some cheese crackers. Yeah, mostly food, ramen noodles maybe 5 or 6 times. And then on day 2, the day and the night loop, I started taking Mountain Dew pretty regularly, like half a cup of Mountain Dew after every loop. And I was feeling good, stomach held out pretty good. I think the slower pace helped.
Definitely, yeah. Running's IG in the chat again asked, do you have a caffeine source throughout the race? Like, how are you staying alert out there?
So my plan was to delay caffeine as long as I could. So I typically drink a lot of caffeine in the day. So I did first night loop with no caffeine, and then kind of it was like, okay, this is normal rhythm. It's morning time. So I had a couple kick starts that I drank over the course of about 3 loops, and then I held off for a couple loops, and partway through the day loops, I was feeling pretty drowsy again. So it's like, okay, I'm just going to go with a steady flow of Mountain Dew. And that's what I did. I had some caffeinated Tailwind there too that I could have mixed, and put in my bottle, but it seemed like the Mountain Dew in between the loops was doing okay.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. If you had like one piece of advice to give to someone who's running a backyard ultra for the first time, what would that advice be to give to them?
Now we'll just go and have fun. There's a bunch of people there. There's always somebody to chat with or run with. Just run as far as you want. I mean, there were people there that, they were just out for a run, like just run a couple loops for fun and stop, and that'll be your long run for the day. Or if you want to try to get 50 miles, it's a cool format. I mean, you always have aid. It's never long in between aid stations. Just go get a distance PR, or if you want to have a 50 miles, there's all kinds of things you can do. And everybody was pretty cool, pretty supportive. It's like you tell somebody, hey, I'm going for 50, people will cheer you on in that last loop.
Awesome.
Yeah. So that's one of the best things about the backyard format. So I'm assuming that Bob has convinced you to come back for next year to defend your title. Is that correct?
That is not correct. So we'll see. I'll be there one way or the other. I don't know how many of these things I can force myself to do.
Well, once you do 250, doing like another 175 next year will be no big deal.
It might be more fun to sit there and crew and watch somebody else do it.
It's also fun. That I will agree with.
Yeah, Brian Poland was great with that job this year. He said that, Jacob, if I have another child, would you be okay if I named him Jacob?
Sure. That's a good name.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, so we normally have a couple of rapid fire questions here before we wrap up. I guess we talked about aid station food, but do you have any pre-race rituals before the race that you normally do either the night before or the day of?
No, not anything crazy. I like to get up maybe a couple hours before, drink some coffee, and just I'd rather get to the race a half hour early and sit there at the start line than rush up at the last minute. So I like to be able to relax before the race. So I'd rather get up a little earlier. Just I don't know, eat normal breakfast, normal morning routine.
So with that being said, you have a post-race meal. Did you indulge in anything particular after your win this past weekend?
Usually ice cream sits pretty well with me. Typically after an ultra, I kind of get cotton mouth and have trouble chewing and swallowing stuff. So ice cream just, especially on a hot ultra, wasn't super hot. First day home, I definitely had a big bowl of ice cream. It just kind of hits the spot, nice and cool and easy to chew.
Yeah, you don't have to bite too hard into that.
No,
if you could run
easy.
if you could run with one person in the history of the world, who would it be and where would you run?
So I guess kind of non-runner, but one of my grandfathers passed away quite a while before. I know he did track and field. I'm not sure what events he ran, but I mean, I wouldn't care where I got to run. If I could get to go for a run with him, it'd be pretty cool. So
Man, if you
taking the easy way out on that one.
Nah, sometimes that's just the right answer. And then if you could run one race every single year for the next decade, what race would it be?
Oh, that's an easy one. I'd run the Mohican 100. That's kind of been my go-to. I just love that race. Love the trails. There's other good ones out there close to home, and just like it.
Well, after beating Gabe, maybe you can eventually steal the Mr. Mohican title from him too, and just totally crush all of his dreams.
No, he's going to run that race. He's going to get 50.
50.
Yes, I could easily see that.
They're going to have to get a new buckle for him.
A new buckle. Just be his face. Just his face on it.
If he does 50, that's more than deserved. Maybe we need to rename the race after him if he does that. But Kyle said that he's really proud of you, and thanks for the ride as well. So good to see Kyle in the chat. Rob said he's looking forward to seeing you tomorrow as well.
Okay, I hope I get to see Rob and not have to work on my deck.
Wait, sorry, say that one more time.
Oh, I hope I get to see Rob because that means I'm out running and not working on the deck of my house.
Oh, yeah. You never know. Maybe they'll show up on the deck too.
Yeah.
But well, Jacob, this has been an absolute pleasure talking to you tonight. It was great to have you on. Where can people find you on social media, Strava, and all that good stuff if they're looking to follow you?
On Facebook and Strava. I don't have any other social media, but yeah, just look me up, Jacob Conrad. Pretty easy.
Yeah, we'll make sure to attach those in the description as well. For those of you that don't know, Jacob's a really awesome kudo giver as well. So he'll make sure to give you a kudo or two on some runs. Thank you again for joining us, Ridge Runner Nation. Make sure to subscribe to us on YouTube, Apple Podcasts. And as always, if you know someone that would be an awesome guest like Jacob was, nominate them and we can hopefully get them on a future show. Jacob, thank you again and congrats on your awesome performance. And we're looking to see you absolutely crush it at Big's Backyard Ultra this fall.
Thanks. It was a pleasure to be on.
We'll talk to you guys soon.
Thanks, guys.